Are you kidding me? This is like a rare shiny mother flipping Pokemon.
Game resumed.
Let's hop into it. Hope nothing breaks. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a replay cast of a game most of you just saw on stream, Flash versus Solar. Now, of course, this comes from the latter session, quite obviously, but I got my grubby little bits on it. What can I tell you? Figured we cast it, put it up on YouTube, have some fun, because this is something that no one else is going to have. So, without further ado, spawning in the top right corner of the map, if you can trust and believe me, this barcode is Samsung Galaxy's Solar. And his opponent in the bottom left. Oh man, that's a barcode. Who could this Terran be? Oh, it's probably the hype dude streaming right now! It's Flash! Now, actually, oddly enough, everyone saw this on stream but me. I was actually trying to talk to both Gumiho and Departure about groups for our 32 Boys 1 Cup tournament, but Solar messaged me and he's like, yo, did you see my game? Did you see my game? I was like, no, what? He's like, you watched Flash stream? I was like, I was. He's like, oh, okay, you watch this. And he gives me this. He just gives it to me. I was like, okay, let's rock and roll. So, a lot of you just saw this, I didn't, and we're just gonna kind of enjoy it, because, again, I'm kind of got Flash on in the background while we were, while I'm doing all this sort of day-to-day business, but I've actually had the pleasure of casting Flash before. All jokes and seriousness aside, well, I guess jokes and serious aside would leave nothing remaining, but in all seriousness, we've seen him in a couple of the IEM Cups. Now, one of the big things was we were somewhat limited day one. We couldn't get our hands on Flash. It was a real big exclusive thing that people, I'm not sure who these people are, but no one wanted to have him cast. So we didn't, and we couldn't, and it sucked. But day two was awesome. We actually got to cast a couple of his games back to back, and you know, lo and behold, this guy is about as much of a god as you think he is. We also got to see him firsthand in IEM Toronto. Zombie Rob and I went. It was a lot of fun. It was a huge blast getting to sit like 5 rows away from that booth and actually seeing that ABM fly in person. And I think the coolest moment was, of course, the second he won. Oh, dude, there was like a roar in the soundproof booth that everybody could hear as he like throws off his headsets and just flexes like a madman. So it's pretty cool to see. Solar, by the way, too, not a small fry over here. Of course, I just recently wrapped up a DreamHack, you know, no big deal. But a really talented Zerg player, nonetheless. I have had the funnest time watching his struggles, though, because whether it's against the standard play, we'll probably see out of Flash, whether against the meching of Jockshi or Gumiho, we've just seen Solar do the weirdest things in the past. But, yeah, Flash is... I don't know, he's a god, you know, he can move a webcam with his mind, and the aliens speak through him, all the weird sound problems at the start of his stream, but it's really cool that he is streaming, because, man, StarCraft 2 has not looked this plentiful in quite some time. I think, at the time of this cast, this recording, there's like 14,000, 15,000 people that were watching his stream. That is sick, because StarCraft 2 viewership for a first-person stream, are you kidding me? That's, like, unheard of. But I guess if you've never streamed but like once before, you get what you get. Now, Flash is going to open this with the Hellions, let's be honest though. This is a standard part of every Terran opener. There's very few who don't incorporate them, but of course we're going to keep our eye on the second gas, because we want to know whether he's going to be going for Banshees or not, but hark, never mind, a third CC comes down. And one of the things I really, I find hilarious again, is we just cast a Chinese player named XY, playing lots of greed in the Leaf Fang Cup. He got away with it against so many Kespa players, not a bunch of B-teamers, but players like Rogue and such. And it was crazy how much he got away with it. Solar does pull off a gas, by the way, but this is not because he's necessarily doing some crazy speedling all in. Of course, we'll watch drones getting cut around now. It is just to get the extra drones out, though, so you can get that third up, you get more saturation, and much more income. Because there's no way you're playing against a player like Flash with like 50 drones of economy. It's just not going to happen. But the Tech Lab finishes up behind us, so it's not like his stim timings will be too late. In fact, actually, pretty crisp timings here just all around for Flash as he starts coming out here with those Hellions. A couple Lings, they're not going to intercept, but the Overlord will see that they've gone by, so these Lings will find a door to go to the natural. And he might catch them just barely between production cycles, but probably not. However, these depots are down. Nope. Flash quick to the response, doesn't even let these Lings in to scout. And I'm being corrected in chat. Some Chinese player, XY, yeah, he's now known as the Mighty XY. That's very true. We had a bunch of fan art made of him as well. That was some pretty good times, some pretty cool stuff. But yeah, realizing he's not getting a lot done here, just decides to take map control instead of going for the base. A couple of these Lings from Solar are actually going to die here. Sad to see, but they didn't get a lot of information, so the Overlord's going to have to definitely duck in a little bit. As we can see, there's 2 Marines keeping this one at bay, just kind of like, you know, the border, stay out. You're not welcome here. But the Hellions coming around the left side of the map, about as standard as it's going to get for timings on this one. I mean, I really enjoyed that the... Ooh, actually, the Reaper sneaks past a lot. The Queen should be able to deal with it, but the Lings... You know, 3 Queens will definitely deter Hellions, but they can die. There's not a lot of transfuses available. In fact, there's going to barely be 1. Okay, there we go. 2 just about ready to go as this one does finish up with its energy. So that actually chooses to inject here. Continue to spread creep while this is going on as well, but the Lings. How is he going to use the Lings? Because you can't just run them into the Hellions. Even if you got that speed, oh, it's going to sting. But in the meantime, the drones start to transfer over. His drone count's actually looking mighty fine, if I do say so myself. Of course, we're used to seeing the Team Liquid guys. Originally, it was Ret and then Snoot that, you know, you get to like that 70, 80 drone count. It was a joke for a long time, but it's got to become standard and expected out of all Zerg players nowadays, especially on 3 bases. But Flash, as we're noting, hasn't really lost much. So while the Hellions didn't do a lot of damage, he's got them retained for the follow-up, the mid-game. Whether he repairs them and turns them into Hellbats, whether he just keeps them as Hellions so that they can fry Lings alive, he's good to go. I like, as well, one of the big things is he doesn't have a bunker down because he's recognized he doesn't need a bunker down. Like, when he's pushing up with this pressure, when he had that Reaper jump towards the main, one of the big things he saw was there's no roaches. There's nothing for him to worry about, so... he doesn't have to worry about that big all-in that tends to come. But as he floats the command center past the Overlord, Solar's going to know what's up, and Flash is going to be a little bit careful about this. This is the base less taken, but we're seeing taken more nowadays. I really enjoy this base because it feels like there's so much pressure that comes here. It doesn't make a lot of sense either when you just take a moment to think about it because there's more openings, wider engagement areas. The only benefit is you will control the watchtower, so if you want to make sure that you know exactly where Solar's coming from, when Solar's coming from, it's definitely better to take this base, whereas if you take this one, you know, he comes in from multiple angles on the right side, but the key thing is they'll come from the right side, so you gotta pick and choose your pros and cons, your vices for taking the third. But Spire on the way here for Solar, and of course the macro hatchery. Ooh, actually that's a fairly quick macro hatchery in consideration that there's already a 4th on the way, so with this being the case, I mean, Solar's just going to be able to pump units. He doesn't have a massive bank saved up yet, but of course one of the worst things we tend to find is Zerg players who go drone heavy like we currently see, they tend to actually fall behind in larva because they stop injecting or they overproduce and just get that bank, and then all of a sudden, you know, you go for the remax and oops, you don't have enough larva for it. So macro hatchery will certainly help with this if the inject starts slipping, although I doubt we're going to see any bad macro out of Solar. I mean, it is Solar after all. But looking at the surround on the Marines in the middle of the map, these medevacs are a little bit awkwardly out of position. I mean, like, what's he hiding from, right? If you just hold these in place, maybe the banelings will connect. They are slow banelings and they are off of creep, so Flash just gonna pick up and head towards Solar's main. Flash, though, I mean, he's got those Hellbats out finally. I was waiting for this to really come into play. We're gonna see whether he sticks with the Hellbats, though. I mean, he's still producing them right now, but it's Widow Mines that we've seen be really interesting. And I'm saying interesting instead of good for a very particular reason. It's that they are random. It's sometimes just a numbers game of like, are you lucky enough to get a good hit with a Widow Mine? Some players, selectively like Joxy, are actually pretty good at using Widow Mine control, but I mean, the amount of Terran players I've actually witnessed firsthand micro their Widow Mines is like, I can count on one hand. But Blue Flame's going to be the follow-up, so he's going to continue to dedicate to this. Blue Flame Hellions have got certainly a good role in this game, but the way I always see it is like, they bring up the lower end, but the higher end falls off as far as damage goes versus Widow Mines. I mean, a Widow Mine can get that hit that just annihilates every Baneling, takes out a Mutalisk, snipes off a lot of splash damage, whereas Hellbats are so limited to not really doing more than soaking Baneling hits. They'll do a great job of frying up the Lings, but that's kind of where they stop excelling at. So you're going to have this high health unit, and we'll see how this plays in. Now, quite a big wall up. I was expecting there to be a depot or two down here. But, yeah, a larger wall coming down here on the left side of the map. Marines, though, just en masse. His supply's looking really good at 114. His 2-2 finishes up at a pretty nice timing. I'm imagining with how sick this is going to sync up. With Blue Flame 2-2, is probably when he's going to look to push. But until then, he really has to play the defensive game. Now, he has started Thor production, which is nice. Mutalisks do tend to get a little out of control in this matchup, as we've seen. Even with the new changes, 10 Mutalisks can be a lot of harass, and what they tend to do nowadays is not lose the game, but harass for freaking ever. And, of course, the one things Mutas are best at are not killing an army of Thors and Marines, but indeed buying time and forcing them to turn around, go home, and deal with their harass. But, Man, Solar's creep's looking alright. He doesn't have a whole hell of a lot of Banelings down there, but he's got a lot of them up here. And when I say a lot, he's on 55 with another 9 coming in. So, he could sandwich in the middle of the map. This is a bit awkward, though. I mean, Solar's got a lot better idea of what's going on here. Flash pre-spreading, expecting Banelings, but is he expecting this many is the question. Solar, at the same time, he knows there's no Widow Mines, so he doesn't have to be super duper careful about this. Takes out a good chunk of units at the first hit. Meanwhile, big counterattack goes on behind this. Factory is going to go down. Oh, actually lifts. Okay. Hellbat should hold behind this, but the Widowmine hits, the Baneling hits are getting some pretty good connections. Remember, it's speed on creep, so he can connect a Flash relatively easy. But this third base tries to get the SCVs onto this round, but they don't quite get it. The Mutalisk will focus down that bunker. And Flash in a bit of trouble. Meanwhile, the Baneling's colliding into the Thors, and, well, actually past the Thor, onto the Marines, onto every freaking thing, because who cares? But the question is, did Solar give away too many? Because right now, there's still a lot of Marines coming in. Round 2 of the Banelings, round 3 of the Banelings rolling in, and Flash isn't even picking up a single unit. There's no Mutalisks in play. I think he got really distracted with the attack back at home. Now, he saves the command center, but the workers killed is certainly, actually... What? Only 5 SCVs went okay. Only 5 SCVs went down. Maybe not the craziest situation in the world, but these medevacs are in a bit of trouble. His boost is coming off of cooldown, but Solar laid it on thick with that Baneling aggression. I mean, that was a hell of a lot of Banelings to give away, but it worked because it squashed the army. Thor's even getting cleaned up now too. The only downside, I suppose, is that he didn't quite fully clean up the medevacs, but, I mean, can you complain? He killed the entire Terran army. And this is the point I was trying to make earlier, too, with this heavier drone count. With almost 90 drones in play, he's mining so heavily, he can make cost-ineffective trades. And that wasn't even that cost-ineffective. And I don't know when, where, or why, but he managed to squeeze out a high while this was going on. So 3-3 begins, Adrenal Glands follows shortly after. Solar's making this happen without a lot of Mutalisks. I mean, the medevacs, they should have been picking up, they should have been going away. The Mutalisks were not with that army, but now they are. And 18 Mutalisks is not a small amount to deal with. Solar might be getting a little overzealous, though. There's still Blue Flame Hellbats, but the Banelings are going to take them out right away. And the Mutalisks, well, not afraid of the Marines in the slightest. Flash is being pushed back to his third once again. Most of the Banelings are gone at this point, but the spread of the Marines simply alone won't be enough. Because, again, the Mutalisk count managed to stay high on 18. Banelings rolling in. Flash picks up the Thor, pulls it back. It's almost dead, but can I get a couple more shots off? Will it get any shots off? Picks up yet again. Control here. Fantastic out of Flash. I would expect nothing less of a god. This Thor with 3 health remains alive. And Solar, he has to regroup, rather. Recoil. Pew, pew. He's actually healing up the Thor, but the problem is, Flash's supply is 86. A good chunk of that here is in the medevacs. A really high medevac count for a non-existent army. Another Thor and a couple Hellbats rallied out here to the front, but even if he can hold off this Baneling attack, and I gotta be honest with you guys, I don't know if he can, but even if he can, there's gotta be the Ultralisk transition behind this. Adrenal Glands 3-3, the timing for Solar not really nearly as important as it would be for Flash, but it's worth noting Flash will be behind in upgrades. Oh, turn man! Natural not getting repaired. That's going to sting a little bit. Mutalisks are going to kill a lot of SCVs, but oh, the swamp on the other side of the map picks up that Thor once again. The Thor who lived. But oh, these Hellbats have got to get out there quick. There's still a lot of Banelings. He's got to lift up the CC right now, morphing more Banelings directly on top of that base. But he just gets swamped, and I don't know that Flash has got enough to deal with it. There's so many links. There's so many Banelings. The army supplies look even, but trust me, they're not. Those medevacs are not helping against Banelings. Thors can't be healed either, and the last few Marines are going down. This base was lifted, and the SCVs this time did go down. GG gonna be called, and Solar will take down a god. Alright.